Hello. Today we are going to discuss author Ellen Vanderhoven's What If Pupils Can Assess Their Peers Anonymously? This is a quasi-experimental study that was conducted to compare a traditional non-anonymous peer assessment using scorecards with an anonymous peer assessment using classroom response technology, which we're going to call CRT throughout this presentation, in a secondary classroom setting with regards to different social effects. The researchers hypothesized that the anonymous modes of peer assessment will induce a reduced perception of peer pressure, a reduced fear of failure, and more positive attitudes toward peer assessment. Items to consider: societal concerns, interpersonal variables which are relevant in peer assessment practices because peer pressure can impact the participants in relation to friendship bonds, animosity, and social discomfort about being critical to fellow classmates. It can lead to negative feelings during assessment and the bias of peer assessments. Technology was also addressed here. Did the classroom response technology system, which is an electronic voting system, provide immediate anonymous feedback even with face-to-face setting? And could it counter some of the undesirable social effects? And the last thing to consider was that there was limited research in regards to face-to-face peer assessment. The three main research questions that were addressed in this study were: do pupils experience peer assessment using CRT as an anonymous form of peer assessment as compared to raising scorecards? Do pupils feel more positive toward peer assessment using CRT as compared to raising scorecards? Do pupils experience less undesirable social effects, such as peer pressure and fear of failure toward others when using CRT for peer assessment as compared to raising scorecards? The participants in this research, there were 2 classroom teachers that were selected, and 2 of their classrooms were also selected. There were 69 participants that were 15 to 16 years old. 72% were girls and 28% were boys. The researchers had to train the students and provide background knowledge about the advantages and disadvantages of peer assessment. They also formulated a criterion rubric to help assess each other when presenting orally. The students were assigned into groups which consisted of 2 or 3 members, and they were instructed to prepare a presentation that would last about 15 minutes. They were given topics by the researchers. They did conduct a practice session where both the students and the teachers got to participate with the rubric and the assessment tools before the actual experiment occurred. The procedure: each teacher chose a classroom to be the experimental group that would use the classroom response technology devices, and they were considered the experimental group. And the other class would use scorecards, and they would be considered the control group. A mixed method of data was selected. Quantitative data was collected through individual questionnaires from the participants at the completion of the assessment. They were judged on a 5-point Likert scale, which used 1 as being totally agree and 5 totally disagree. Qualitative data was also collected through observations recorded in journals and a semi-structured class discussion with the 4 participating classes and teacher interviews. As expected, it was found that the condition in which the pupils had to give scores to their peers using the CRT did experience more anonymity and then the condition in which the pupils had to give their scores using the scorecards. It was also found that the pupils did feel more positive about peer assessment when using the CRT. One of the remarks recorded was, "I like scoring the work of my peers, particularly with the CRTs." That was one. And another pupil expressed his feelings as, I had real fun working with the CRT. We should definitely do this again. And the last research question, to find this answer, univariate analysis showed that pupils experience less peer pressure and less fear of failure when giving lower scores in the anonymous CRT condition than they did in the non-anonymous scorecard raising condition. It was also found that the lower scores were given by pupils in the anonymous condition than the anonymous condition. There were limitations to this study. First of all, only 4 classes participated as depicted in the participants given on a previous slide. It can be seen that the general levels of peer pressure and fear of failure are still rather low. This might be due to the specific class group characteristics. Individuals that form close groups are more susceptible of peer pressure and societal influences. Therefore, a large-scale study is necessary to confirm and deepen these results, taking into account different class structures. Secondly, the manipulation of our peer assessment modes was a between-subject manipulation. Therefore, no direct comparison can be made between the two conditions. The same students did not participate in both. It would be interesting to replicate this and see if the same results occurred. In conclusion, anonymous peer assessment using CRT is a valuable method with various positive effects. Therefore, more research about the detail of the implementation, accuracy, and ideal conditions of the context are invaluable. This study did prove anonymity could help students evaluate other peers justly, but in order to be successful, students should be given the proper tools and training that will assess with integrity. That concludes our presentation. My references are as follows. Thank you.